Thanks for joining us again, everybody. CVO Gun Talk live on Facebook, and we'll get uploaded later onto YouTube by the wonderful Shane the Brain in the corner. Today we have with us the normal guy, Mike McAmeal, and Mr. Rob
Abby
Pincus.
Normal.
Yeah, yes. Oh, yeah, there you go. Of 18 Zulu. And Rob Pincus. Rob, thanks for your time. I know you're busy.
I'm not busy. Today's a day off.
Yeah, I know. In your world, this is like, hey, I have 6 hours. Sounds like you between jobs, too.
I didn't know I didn't know your nickname was the normal guy.
Yeah.
It's a new one, apparently.
New
Nice.
Mike.
Nice. Congrats.
New Mike.
Yeah. New me.
All right. So yesterday, Rob was on the gun range teaching. Tonight he's going to be with us shooting trap at Northland Fish and Game to raise some money for their youth shooting programs there. Mike, let's do some questions. What do you want to talk about? It's your topic. Your topic, because I loved it.
Yeah. All right.
Tell the
So
world-
I just thought give Rob a few minutes to kind of introduce himself. We talked to him. I talked about him a lot on this podcast, and people may or may not know what that's all about. So
Sure.
whatever you want to say, Rob.
Wow. Hi.
You can say whatever you want.
I don't really do a lot of. Usually, if I'm doing live video, I'm holding like my phone,
Right.
doing
Yeah.
selfies.
Like
right?
I saw that the world was colliding.
And driving a race car.
Right.
This is totally professional. Good job. This is great. I mean, you guys have done this. I've not seen all the episodes. I've seen a bunch of them. Had a bunch of my friends on here. You talk about a lot of the same things that I'm interested in. So appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, yeah, we talk about you enough. You might as well make it once. So
I think I'm not sure how you scheduled a day off in Iowa for me, but well played, sir.
Yes.
Well played.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Kind of tell us background so people can kind of get an idea of what we've been talking about.
I run around trying to make Earth better, quite often by teaching people things that will help them be prepared for the worst case scenarios, particularly in the area of armed defense, right? So, I don't know, go back to 1980 something. I started shooting and really enjoyed shooting, enjoyed guns, enjoyed kind of the physics, the engineering of the gun, right, as a tool area of interest, and also the what I would now refer to as the professional use of arms. In other words, the police use of firearms, military, things like that. So whether it was the history of that, the technology of that, that was a big area of interest. And then as I developed my own shooting ability and started enjoying the shooting, the physical aspects of it, as well as, typical, young guy stuff, right? You study dinosaurs or, airplanes, jet airplanes, build models, whatever. Well, my thing became firearms and the professional use of arms, and then, probably military history and strategy and stuff like that too. That led to me thinking that I would at some point be an armed professional long term in a career, military, law enforcement like that. Went to a military college, graduated, got a commission in the Army Reserve. Didn't really do anything with that. Ended up in the IRR pretty quick during the Clinton cutback era. Then I became a reserve police officer. I had been doing security work along the way, sometimes during the summer, college, stuff like that. My dad had been a police officer. He retired in the mid-'80s, ended up going into professional executive protection world. So through the connections there, got some good, security jobs and experience along the way, and decided by my late 20s I needed to give the armed professional thing a real one more shot, right? So decided to go from reserve law enforcement, which I had a great opportunity in Middle Tennessee to serve with the sheriff's office that I certainly, helped out there and did what I could there, but I was able to spend a lot of time with some detectives in Nashville Metropolitan Police Department. So in Middle Tennessee, there's a lot of violent crime in Tennessee that in Nashville, a lot of people don't know
Nashville is
about.
one of the most violent cities in the United States.
So I worked with a group that was actually, back then they had to change the name, politics being what it is, but spent a lot of time attached to or working with, assisting in any way I could, a group called Murder Squad. And it was basically like warm bodies, just happened kind of murders. These senior detectives got the opportunity to go out and try to solve them quickly. And they had a lot of patrol assets and just connections and networking and things being what they were. And the free time I had when I wasn't traveling, I was able to spend a lot of time with these guys. And I was, 20-something, right? So when it comes time to knock on a door in the projects, the senior, guys my age now, guys in their 40s, the senior detectives weren't the guys that were going to end up running around the corner if somebody squirted out of the building, right? So I ended up in some really interesting situations, seeing a lot of really, more real police work kind of stuff on the investigative side and on the physical interaction side than I should have, as a reserve deputy in the middle of a small county north of Nashville in Tennessee. And then so that all gave me, kind of the idea I really need to give this a fair shot. So I ended up moving to Virginia, worked for a small city up there for a few years, did kind of every school I could possibly get into. They had a program called the Weed and Seed program. It was a grant money for putting an officer in kind of the worst part of the city, let me live there, unlimited overtime, a lot of foot patrol stuff, a lot of, open air drug dealing, kind of looking out the window like, oh, maybe I'll go talk to those guys kind of stuff, early Nokia cell phones, calling in foot pursuits on cell phones. They invented a bunch of rules.
The expandable antenna.
They invented a bunch of rules around this. Apparently, I took the go ahead, be police guy, too literally, and I got tired of. I was working night shift for patrol, and was on the special response team and all that. I got tired of. 2 o'clock in the morning was great, but 10 o'clock in the morning explaining why I used a bad word loudly in front of someone's house in the lieutenant's office just didn't make any sense anymore. And I was going to a lot of schools. I was getting invited to teach a lot, become an adjunct instructor for different private sector schools. And I just ended up realizing I really like teaching a lot more than I like the administrative bureaucracy, which no one that knows me now would find that surprising.
I was going to say that it seems to be a pattern that started early.
Yeah. So that happened. And then 2001, I separated from the police department, and obviously, we know what happened. It's July, and we know what happened in September, and the whole world changed for training. And I had been writing for SWAT magazine, like I said, teaching for a bunch of different schools. But when the landscape changed after September 2001 and private sector training industry, everybody was looking for training anywhere they could get it. Especially if it was something, I guess, not necessarily different to be different, but a different perspective or a new school or some combination of influences from the time I had spent in law enforcement, the stuff I was doing in executive protection, the military, and then the study of that. I think I had a very different take on it. Most of the guys who were in the industry, there was nobody in their 20s running a school, running a national school back then, right? There was a handful of guys. Almost everybody in the industry, it was a second or third career. It was guys who retired after 20 years in the military or 20 years in law enforcement and opened up schools or went to work for one of the major schools. Gunsight would be the most obvious one. And I was an anomaly, but I was an anomaly that was getting traction and an anomaly that got the opportunity, created opportunity, or looked for opportunity, and when it was there, it led to some great opportunities to teach and to establish a curriculum by 2003 and work with some amazing people in the armed professional side. And as the growth of, I got very involved in the right to keep and bear arms and the fight for the right to keep and bear arms in the 90s, and working with NSSF, working with Law Enforcement Association of America, and eventually the NRA. As the growth of concealed carry happened, remember in the 80s, concealed carry, there were still over a dozen states where you couldn't carry legally. Right. Texas. I like to remind Texas that in 1990 there was no such thing as concealed carry in Texas. Right. That landscape has changed. So you had 50,000 people maybe going to schools in the early 90s. They were all kind of going to the same schools, or they go back. Clint Smith has talked about how 80% of his students for a long time were alumni coming back, recycling. Then everything changed. We had shall issues. So the private sector, well, now we have 30 million people that can legally carry between the 12 or 13 constitutional carry states and then the 15, 16 million people with permits. We have 30 million people that can legally carry guns. So there's a huge, the growth of the private sector really was capitalized on not only by I.C.E. Training Company, my company, but also Personal Defense Network, which we started in 2010 as an outgrowth of the DVD series we were doing with the NRA. We've produced over 112 DVDs and distributed over 6 million of them, largely with the help of the NRA, but Second Amendment Foundation was the first organization we distributed with, and Guns and Ammo Magazine was actually our first partner on that project going back to 2005 when I was working with Gresham on the very first defense-oriented television show, PDTV, before we did the Best Defense show and all that stuff. So it's really just comes down to just getting information out there and finding every way I could to do it, starting with the public sector, working with a lot of high-end military guys and working with law enforcement, doing all the law enforcement conferences, ILFE, all that stuff, and then segueing into the private sector as that has grown, because I think the need there has become a lot larger, and the industry, as the big parts of the industry really haven't kept up with it.
Yeah, that's kind of how, I mean, Ernie's got his own story, but as far as how I came to, I retired out of the military in 2004, had not had any, I'd say, private sector training at all. It was all military training, groups of guys together doing stuff, and I thought I was pretty well trained. And I get out, found out that the context was totally different. I had really no idea what I was doing as far as personal defense, and I started looking around, and I started getting these DVDs from the NRA with your face on the cover, and started seeing some, then was called C.F.S., now Intuitive Defensive Shooting, and it made a lot of sense to me. And it just kind of caused me to delve farther in the program, and eventually I am where I am. But that's kind of how I found out about the whole scenario, and the program just really made sense to me.
Cool. Yeah, we worked with a lot of guys, similar background to you in the early 2000s. We ended up having a sole source provider contract through USASOC and for that extreme close quarters counter-ambush program. So there was a lot of influence from guys from the Army side or guys from the NSW side, as well as all the law enforcement guys coming in and really kind of the same thing. Like, that makes sense. And as we got further and further into the global war on terror, and guys got more and more experience. Because I remember when, like, even the name, you mentioned we changed the name, Combat Focus Shooting. Well, in 2003, when we needed a name for the program, the idea that in combat, quote unquote, you focus on the threat and that you need to worry about other things, not how to run your gun. That was the idea, right? What are the important things to focus on in the fight? But in 2003, the word combat didn't carry, I believe, in our community, and certainly for me, the same weight that it does now. It's kind of like tactical. It was just like an overused throwaway word, right? Because we really didn't have a large number of guys with a lot of combat experience in the coming out of the 90s, right, in the military. And that has all changed. Right now, you can't go to a gun shop, let alone a gun store or a gun class or a training event, without finding guys who are legitimate combat veterans.
Yeah, I mean, you see some of the most unassuming guys just right here in Iowa. They've got multiple combat tours, and you're like, well, now you dispatch trucks for a trucking company, but
But you've got that, yeah. So it almost became like, for me, it almost became disrespectful. It's like I signed the contract, I raised my hand, I'm a veteran in that sense. But when I look around and see what's going on, like, I feel it's almost conflicted, right? Like, I spoke at a gun rights thing at a VFW last week in Illinois, and they're like, we like to have all the veterans stand up and be acknowledged. And I'm looking around the room, and there's guys who are like, 24, 25, 26 years old. I got guys over here who are 76, 86 years old. And these guys, they did the veteran thing. Like, they deserve that moment, right? Like, I don't deserve that the way they deserve that, in my opinion. But then it's like the politics of it, right? Like, oh, Rob Pincus didn't stand up. I don't think he was really in the Army ever. So it's like...
No, I totally get it, because and Ernie, I know, because he's very reluctant to criticize anybody that's ever been in the military, because he's like, I've never been in the military. I can't, which is not totally true, by the way. You can call bullshit if you want.
No,
there's douchebags in the military too.
Oh,
just so you know.
You've convinced me.
Yes, there are.
I totally get what you're saying, because even with my background, I know some real, like, I guess I hate the word badass, but those guys are badass.
Yep.
And I do not feel I deserve to be in the same room with them at some point. So I get what you're saying as far as that feeling.
Yeah, you told me the other day, you're like, do you know so-and-so? I'm like, not really. And you're like, this guy's an actual badass.
Right. I
you
mean,
don't say that very often.
You got guys out there that are heroes that are unsung, and people don't really know. And like, they live their life with integrity. They've done a lot for this country, and they don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. And
did you refer to that as quiet professionals once?
Well,
I mean,
that's kind of the motto we have, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I get the sentiment that sometimes you feel like you don't deserve to be lumped with those guys. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and it was a great honor. I mean, when I look back and this and probably CVO Gun Talk will make that list. The things I've done that I'm really, really proud of, certainly working with the guys that were right in the thick of all that stuff, and feeling like I was able to help get, like, the feedback I still get to this day, hey, this is a blast from the past. I saw this on Facebook. You don't remember me. I was in a class at Valhalla in 2004, and we used your stuff on a lot of deployments. You helped us. You saved lives. Like, I get that. That's powerful, right? And it's working with the Army side and the Navy side was unique. I don't know a lot of guys really in the industry who spent as much time in depth with both sides the way I got to during that 2004 to 2007 era, 2003 to 2007 era. And there was a lot going on, and there was a lot of innovation. There was a lot of growth. There was a lot of people saying, wow, this isn't, the Fulda Gap, kind of stuff. It's not, it wasn't big. It wasn't what a lot of people were getting ready for. And they went over there and it was different. And they come back realizing why they needed to do more close quarter stuff, why they needed to do more counter ambush style things. I remember, big thing was, and maybe it was 2005. It was like, look, we're getting hit after the action on the objective. Like, we got guys, the adrenaline dump, they're falling asleep in the Humvees, and as we're going back, there's only so many ways you can go back, and this is a thing. Okay, we get it. We could have guys getting ambushed after they have the action on the objective, but it was happening so often that became a training issue. It was like, we want to find ways to get that ramp up and fall down and then do something. We were taking ODAs and putting them on big, comfortable couches at the, we had at the Valhalla Training Center in front of a fire, right? So we'd do a really intense something, and, guys, stay here. We're going to work with, another team. And we'd let them get drowsy, and then we'd jump in. Hey, guys, let's go. Of course, the team leader, team sergeant would be in on it. So it wasn't a bunch of guys like going, you know how it is. Like, what? Dude, we're at training. So So it was about waking them up and going right away and putting them right back into the scenarios after the adrenaline dump and just being involved in stuff like that. Like, it's not something that you do on a whim, and it's also not something that if you do it on a whim, guys at that level would even take seriously. They'd roll their eyes and be like, who's this civilian kid trying to be cool, trying to do something? But they were like, oh, man, that was like the thing. And that's where a lot of our reality-based training, my approach to reality-based training comes from. It's just contextually appropriate to the needs of the student and the intended context of use. That's reality-based training. It's not some piece of gear. It's not a scenario versus live fire. It's how do we identify the problem of the student and try to help them solve it? And the work that was done and the attention that I got and the collaborations that I got with those guys at that time was incredibly influential.
Yeah, that time frame, that was towards the end of my experience in the military. I retired in 2004, but I mean, it was the Wild West over there.
Oh, it was crazy.
I mean, we literally had good guys, bad guys, and bandits. Like, you still had to worry about criminals that would just ambush you to steal your stuff. I mean, it was crazy, right? So yeah. It was a totally different environment than the Cold War type scenario and everything else.
We had ballistic blankets. When Valhalla was originally built, the idea was there was going to be these two areas that had roll-up doors, and we had these thick level 3 or 3A ballistic blankets that were huge that covered these whole garage roll-up doors because just in case it was supposed to be a 360-degree building, so we needed that over the roll-up doors. So we ended up getting rid of that and blocking those in with mild steel. So we had thousands of dollars that were invested in that. We gave that to some of the 10th group teams, and they cut it up to before the Humvees were up armored. So on the second deployment after they came through, I forget which group it was, but one of the companies took back our ballistic blankets because they just didn't have stuff. Later, in 2006 or 7, we had a group from, I forget if it was Navy or Army side. It must have been Army side. It was funny because one of the guys is one of those things where the crusty guy was just kind of like, well, I'm never going to use any gun but the Beretta M9, so I'm going to use the slide release because it's a big lever, and I've been doing it, and I'm not going to do this overhand rack, and this is all I'm ever going to use, and so there. You can't convince me otherwise, and how many times have you been to the rock pile sandbox anyway? 14 months later, same ODA comes back for a low-profile intel thing with Glock 26s. That little levery thing's a little different, huh? So, but when they came back, it was just one of the same groups, and they're like, man, that we know there were some IEDs that those blankets caught shrapnel and saved people. So that's the kind of stuff that was going on. It was an interesting time.
Yeah, very cool, very cool.
What do you got, Mike? That's good.
So
don't not call yourself a badass, Mike. You have 5 jobs.
Actual.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Actual. Yeah.
New normal Mike's a badass.
All right. Cowboys and Indians spot on assessment. Dave.
Yeah, Dave. Yeah.
So, anyway, I wanted to talk about these guys give me crap all the time because apparently I say the word holistic a lot.
I don't give you crap.
So I've turned it into my catchphrase.
I like it.
So, and that kind of goes into a question we had earlier. One of the guys that watches the show talked about with the increase or the call for more armed citizens to protect others against violence. Why are we not seeing a corresponding increase in training overall, like medical training, self-defense training with a firearm, any of those things? And that kind of goes to my question is, what's a good holistic, I'm going to use the word, get it out of the way.
That's what it is.
Self-defense training plan.
I think, as far as holistic goes, I can remember, you see it so many times, maybe I don't remember it from then, but I mean, I guess the first time I saw holistic anything was Star Wars. When R2-D2 put that Princess Leia out there as a holistic image. That's what we're talking
That's
about,
a
right?
hologram.
Oh.
I'm talking more like the New Age medicine, hot rocks on the spine.
Oh.
But you were totally getting into that, though. You were.
I was.
Hippie stuff.
I was. No, we're talking about
I get
integrated training, I guess.
Yeah, it is. I guess for me, that's a three-part question. First, let's talk about the why isn't there more training? I don't know I don't know the perspective that the person asking the question comes from, but I promise you, there's more training. Right? If you were looking around in 1992,
I don't think he's saying there's not a opportunity. He's asking why aren't more people taking advantage of it?
Well, I think people are, and now true as a percentage, maybe they're not. Right? And I think that's important. I don't know. I mean, that's a human behavior question, right? And all right, I'm going to jump ahead because I know we're going to talk about right to keep and bear arms. And I think this is the real answer. The best real answer I can give you is we as a community have been fighting to regain our right to keep and bear arms so hard since the 90s. There were pockets, there were people interested, I get it. But when that 1994 weapons ban kicked in, that's what motivated the current generation of gun owners that are fighting for the right to keep and bear arms to really pay attention, right? And that was a sea change, a paradigm shift, whatever catchphrase you want to use. It was real when that assault weapons ban kicked in, and that changed things. We fought so hard and realized as a community we had to fight for our rights to again, I always say regain, right? Because we had this thing called the Second Amendment, right? We referred to as the Second Amendment, where we talk about our rights to keep and bear arms not being infringed. Well, our rights are infringed, right? You can't pound on the podium today and say, what don't you understand about shall not be infringed? It's too late. Like, we're so far removed from that is it the bottom line of the conversation? Sure. Is it the end of the conversation? Absolutely not, because we're so far from shall not be infringed. We're trying to work back to that. And we're a hell of a lot closer now than we were in 1994.
True.
And 84 and 74. And since 68, really, we've been incredibly infringed. The whole landscape really changed. And I get it started earlier. You go back to the moonshine. We all know, we've all read Unintended Consequences. We know the history, right? But really it started in the 60s, the aggressive, assertive infringement. So the whole thing changes in the 90s, and we start fighting. We start fighting so hard that it's kind of like we're gonna say, yes, we want constitutional carry, which we do. I am a huge advocate for constitutional carry. I want literally anyone who can legally own a gun to be able to legally use, to include carrying that gun for defense without legal restriction until they have demonstrated that their rights should be restricted, just like our right to free speech, our right to free movement, right? Well, you're put in a jail cell. You aren't allowed to move around and be free in your movement when you have demonstrated that you can't be trusted with it, or that you need to be punished for something you did, an infraction against the social contract, the community, the society, our civilization, our country, our state, whatever. So we're fighting for those rights. So we have to, on the political side, say that we don't want mandatory training. I don't want mandatory training. And that's not just a political stance. I really think the government won't do a good job with it. I don't think the government does a good job with mandatory training, up to and including the training that we give our baseline soldiers, up to and including police academies, the baseline police training, up to and including driver's licenses, right? We're starting to get better at these things. Police academies are far better than they were 30 years ago. The driver's license, graduated driver's programs, the way the kids get to drive now in increments, daytime, no passengers, all that it's better. But I don't think the government does a good job of mass training, right? I don't think anybody really does. I think training has to be customized. We talked about it before. It has to be more specific to the needs of the student, right? So I don't want the government involved in training. But the overcorrection to where politically we're all like, yeah, if you have a hunter's permit, that should be good enough to get a concealed carry permit. if you're a veteran, we just talked about this, right? And it's not that we're talking about shit bags, but there's plenty of veterans.
And that's the way it is here in this state.
Yeah.
If you show a
DD 214,
you can get a concealed carry permit.
Yeah, and it's like, no, there is no correlation for the vast majority of military service members to carrying a Glock under this polo shirt, right? Or in this case, carrying a Springfield XDS under this polo shirt and going to the mall with your family. There's zero correlation. And I don't care how much of an actual badass you were with this tool and this vest and these vision and that team and those drones and that dog and these explosives and that flashbang, you're still the guy going to the mall with your kid that you're super focused on having a good time in the little play park at the mall, and your wife's over here with your credit card and you're hoping that doesn't go horribly, but you're really enjoying time with the kid, and then a shot goes off. And are you way far more prepared with or without a handgun than the guy who wasn't an actual badass over there? Yes, but only in some conceptual sense. There's so much more specific work that can be done, and that's for the actual badass. So now talk to me about the guy in finance, right? The guy who's in the medical corps. There's no correlation here. So I don't want that person to get a permit that says they have the right to carry because of some bullshit connection to their military service that has nothing to do with this, or because they have a hunter safety card. I want them to get it because they're Americans with freedom and that haven't done anything to have their Second Amendment rights restricted. So we get conflicted. We don't encourage training because what happens? The government gives you this little piece of paper. Well, here you go. You have taken a 4-hour course with you shot 6 rounds into a berm with no target to demonstrate proficiency or something. And now you get a permit, and what do people do? They say, I've got the permit. The government, I must be okay, right? I've been given this. I passed the class. Now we put it on them to say, I want to do more. Well, if it's not your lifestyle, you've got a million other things to do in life. And if you go into the gun shop and you have a bunch of bravado, politically motivated, good, bad, whatever, well, you shouldn't have to train to be able to exercise your Second Amendment rights. No, you shouldn't have to train, but you should train. And I think that's that's what we need to do a better job of, policing our own. Like you said, it's easy for you to sit there. It's easier for you to sit there than it is for Ernie, and you have more legitimacy doing it than I do to say there's a lot of shitbags in the military, right? All you have to look around. There's guys, in Leavenworth, and there's guys who get out and beat their wives. There's guys who get out and rob cars. There's, rob banks, steal cars, whatever. There are bad people. There's bad cops. There's bad concealed carry guys, right? There was one organization that had an instructor recently who lost his mind and shot the neighbors because his estranged wife ran over there. And this guy was an instructor. I know people who know him. There are bad people everywhere, and that's okay, right? Accept it. There are evil people. But until someone has demonstrated that evilness or that incompetency, we shouldn't have restrictions on our Second Amendment rights. I mean, when we fight for them so hard that we stop encouraging responsibility and we stop calling out bad behavior, that's when we've lost our way, I think. And I think we've done that. I think we fought so hard for so long that we're not encouraging people to train because we're afraid if we say out loud, like people are afraid right now that Huffington Post is going to cut out that 10 seconds and say, world-renowned firearms instructor says people are irresponsible with guns. There are people who are irresponsible with guns. Right. I want to change that from within the firearms community before the Huffington Post and the government tell us how do we need to change it.
True.
So you kind of talked about, and it's a human behavior issue, but how do we get people? Is it by education? Do we get people to say, hey, maybe I need to do this thing. I need to go take a medical class, or I need to take a handgun class beyond the qualification I did for my concealed carry permit, or is that just a constant?
Yeah, I think we lead by example. I think we don't let the gun shop counter guy say things like, if you serve this country, you deserve to carry that gun in the mall. You're not going to training. You've done all the training. You've proved yourself. We need people to stop saying things like that. We need more, hey, I get it. You're a great shooter, right? Look at this guy in Texas, right? The guy in Texas who's, supposedly, at least according to his cousin or whoever did the first interviews, the Texas church shooter guy, the good guy, right? The guy who intervened, he had the best of intentions, and apparently he was a good shooter, He obviously had a gun, but he also obviously had no plan, right? So somewhere in firearms world, he had built up his responsibility or ability in his head. And I fear that he had maybe heard so many times, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And when he heard shots from outside that window when he was standing there with his daughter, the only thing that came into his head was, there's a bad guy with a gun. I have a gun. Maybe I need to be that good guy with a gun. The problem is that's too late. Like, you can't decide that when the shots are going off. Because what did he do? Fixated on the gun, ran to his safe. He didn't even have a magazine loaded. I mean, talk about no plan, no preparation, no education. That gun wasn't staged for use. He just happened to have a gun and happens to be a good guy. Well, that's not enough. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun or without is a motivated good guy. And you can get lucky, or you can be prepared to use a gun or use this pen, or, you know, maybe the bad guy's done some of his damage already. He's left, and now I'm going to use this medical kit, right? I'm going to use my medical training to be the good guy, to save somebody, to undo some of that evil, or to mitigate some of the evil that was done. So this guy does what? He goes and fixates on the gun, and his daughter leaves the house. Right? If you ask that guy in a sober moment, like, would you be more interested in making sure your daughter was safe or loading your magazines if you thought somebody was shooting up the town? Right? I would imagine he would never say, oh, I'd let my daughter leave and go check things out while I was loading the magazines because I need to be a good guy with a gun. But that's the messaging that we put out. Good guy with a gun, not responsible father taking care of his family. Good guy with a gun. So his daughter leaves. Literally drives over to the church, right? Comes back, Daddy, they're shooting up the church. He's got a pocket full of shells and, you know, no shoes. And now think about it. If you saw this, right? You hear they're shooting up the church. The only guy with an AR in his hands when you get there is that guy. So now you got a barefoot guy pointing an AR at people in a church parking lot where a church shooting's going on. I mean, this is the moment where the guy gets lucky he's not dead, right? Then he shoots at a moving vehicle that's driving through a town. Then he carjacks somebody, essentially, right?
Yeah,
Goes into the street barefoot, waving an AR around. Cowboy hat wearing guy in a truck in Texas. How did he not get shot at that moment? Because if I live on the internet, a cowboy hat wearing guy in a truck in Texas has a gun and he's trained and he's Texan. Mm-hmm. Why didn't he get shot then? Right? And then they go on a high-speed pursuit. Remember, the church shooter was already done. He'd already dropped his AR and got in the car, or was getting in the car and getting ready to leave. So we celebrate this guy as a hero and only perpetuate the myth that that's okay. That was not okay. Nothing that guy did was okay. He got really crazy lucky. And we need to be calling that out to everybody with an AR in their house, that if you want to be the guy that can save yourself, your family, your town, think about the plan holistic. Let's get back to that, right? The holistic plan involves staging the gun. The holistic plan involves talking to your family. The holistic plan involves you making sure that your family is safe before you worry about the gun in your hand, right? Or you stage the gun better so that the gun can be in your hand quicker with magazines. The holistic plan includes the medical kit. The holistic plan includes the medical training. The holistic plan includes the flashlight, right? Like, I mean, the flashlight and a pocket knife and the medical kit are on me more because I get on a plane. I can take the flashlight and the medical kit on the plane. Can't take the knife, can't take the gun. But that, to me, that's what we mean by holistic or integrated training, right? We cannot say, when we look at the bad guy, the spree killer, we can't say, that's not about the gun. The gun has nothing to do with it. That is a human being who chose to kill, or a human being with mental problems, who's evil. He is the problem, not the gun. And then over here, the only way that we can protect our kids, and the only way we can protect ourselves, is with a gun. It doesn't matter how much you want to be a good person. It doesn't matter how much you want to help. It doesn't matter how much you want to do. If you don't have a gun, you cannot possibly stop the spree killer. In the face of empirical evidence that there's plenty of people who are unarmed and stop armed spree killers, and the conceptual, like the cognitive dissonance of guns aren't the problem, but guns are the solution. And I think that's a ramification of this political backed against the wall position that our generation was in the 90s, where we could never admit that some people inside of the gun community are irresponsible with guns. We could never admit that training is a 1,000% responsibility that anybody who owns a gun, and especially if they purport to own a gun for defense, or they're going to carry a gun in public, must do. But if we use a word like must, the government's going to flip it on us, right? I really think it comes back to the fact that we were politically backed up against the wall, and we now have default behaviors that we don't want to say something that's obvious and common sense because it could be used against us. Everything can be used against you. Get over it. Have better arguments. Be a better articulator. Be prepared to intellectually defend your ideas. Don't be afraid of being attacked because you're going to be attacked.
Yeah, I think I kind of latched onto the be a good example statement you made. And I think experience is a great teacher too. I think you evangelize and you get people to think about their situation, and eventually maybe a spark will get lit. You give them real life examples that, hey, it is not all about the gun, and you have to fill that gap. I like to say the term "fill the gap." I went to some training this past weekend with my job, EMS, and then also as a reserve law enforcement officer. So I was kind of on the LEO side and also the EMS side. We did rescue task force training where you integrate all those responses. And, I've said a million times that you got to fill the gap of the average 5 to 6 minute police response to these incidents. It took a lot longer than that for these guys to clear this school. I mean, they're clearing and re-clearing, and before the actual medics got in there or we were called in, I'd say 20 minutes, easy. Mm-hmm. And what are people doing? People are dying, right? So that's where medical training comes in. That's where you be familiar with what's going on and be inoculated to the stress. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a big believer in doing training that inoculates you to stress, so the first time something happens, you don't freak out.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go to inoculate. I might say acclimate to the idea, right? Like applied skills versus performed skills. And, we were big on that in the program, the idea that it's one thing if I tell you, okay, load 3 rounds in this magazine, load 3 rounds in that magazine, chamber a round, go to the ready position. When on the buzzer, I want you to fire 3 rounds into the chest, reload, fire 3 rounds into the chest. Anybody who's been practicing a bit, that reload's going to be good, right? I'd much rather give them 3 magazines that their friend loads somewhere between 5 and 15 rounds into, put, 2 in their pocket or their carrier or whatever they're doing, and 1 into the gun, let them chamber a round, go into the holster, and have them do a figure 8 drill, 5 or 6 reps where they know they have to fire 4 to 6 shots into the chest of each target after a simulated startle reaction. They find the right target, they engage that target, and at some point they're going to drive out, and in their head we know how it works, right? They're going to say, I'm shooting 5 this time. I shot 4 last time. If I shoot 4 again, they're going to be mad at me. I'll shoot 5 this time. Okay. They drive out and get 3. What's that reload look like when they feel slide lock? Right, and to me, that's under stress. That's under duress. That's on demand. It's not on demand when you say reload right now. It's not even. It's certainly not on demand when you say, in a few minutes, in a few seconds, I'm going to blow a whistle, and I want you to fire 3 rounds and reload. Okay, because you got to be able to do these things on demand. That's not on demand, right? That's it. That's with a 3-minute warning, and your brain's already rehearsing it. You're already sort of getting in you're doing your dry rep, right? How many times do you see the world's best competition shooters stand at the thing and just warm that shoulder up, right? Well, you don't. If you walk into the pizza shop and you look at a guy and you just warm your shoulder up just in case you have to shoot him, and then they're going to call somebody.
It's part of the plan,
right? They're going to call somebody, right? So the idea of under stress is so important. I spent a day with down in Parkland, the Coral Springs Police Department. Everybody knows they were the ones that were the first responders, right? They went by the Broward County Sheriff's Office. Some cops, friends of mine, they're like, well, this guy, he was hemmed up by bad leadership and bad communication. No, he wasn't. He was an SRO for 2 decades. He knows that the job since 1999 has been well defined as you go towards the kids, you go to the bang bang sounds, you move. You don't wait for the commander, you don't wait for a friend, you go find somebody to help. And we know that was his job. He knows that was his job. You cannot. Yes, Scott Israel, should he resign? Absolutely. Should he have resigned? I can't believe he hasn't resigned. Are there problems at Broward County Sheriff's Office? You bet. But there's no excuse that you can pawn off from that guy who was wearing the badge and carrying the gun, who didn't go look for somebody. Well, how do you know he would have found him? It was a huge campus. I've been to the campus, right? So don't tell me on the internet how huge the campus was, because he was patrolling 8 square feet of it behind a concrete wall for 17 minutes.
Yeah, he's
right?
in his interview, he said he couldn't tell where the gunfire was coming from, or he wasn't sure.
Well, that's because you were hiding behind a brick wall for 17 minutes while other guys, Coral Springs PD in particular, were doing things, right? So one of their street crimes guys, or street intelligence, they got pulled up to the back gate. Now, the campus is huge, and they've got kind of controlled entryways towards the front. When you come from Coral Springs, you end up behind sort of where the main entrance to the campus is. And he jumped over a median. And when I say jumped over a median, I don't picture Dukes of Hazzard. Picture he was afraid he was going to rip the transmission off of his, city issue car. Like, so he goes over this thing and pulls up to a locked gate. And and this guy, he's the guy that we would have called like the Tackleberry, right? He's the guy who's serious about his training. He likes the gear. He prepares. He goes the extra step. So he had.
Why is he making fun of me?
Yeah, he had the bolt cutters, right? And he had thought about if he ever had to get, he in his mind, he didn't have to come up with a plan. He didn't have to improvise anything. He knew that was a locked gate. And he said he thought about ramming it. And then he's like, this Ford isn't going to make it. Like, if I ram it, I will be stuck in the gate and I'm not going to be able to help anybody. So he stops, goes to the back, gets his bolt cutters where he knows where they are. And Coral Springs PD had just issued these emergency response medical bags. And they were for exactly this kind of thing. And maybe it was 4 months ago. Well, he's the guy who had practiced, getting it out of the car and attaching it to his gear, attaching it to his belt. And then they wear external vests over the uniform shirt. So attaching it to it, like he had already practiced that. Like he was doing dry runs, right? And he's the guy that somebody's sitting in the coffee shop looking at him like, oh, he'll be in a minute, but he's practicing just in case, right? And rolls their eyes. Well, he was the guy that was doing that. So he chops the bolt. By that time, one or two other guys get there. By the time he actually gets the gate open. So when they went in, not because they were waiting for 3 or 4 guys, but by the time they actually get there, there's 3 or 4 guys there. And one of those guys has this bag in his hand, and he's like, the fine motor skill, the decision-making, the stress, all that stuff that he wasn't acclimated to, he couldn't attach the bag properly because he hadn't rehearsed it. So just something as simple as attaching the medical bag was a problem for that guy, right? They went in, they very quickly, it was, smoke, kids screaming, blood, all that. They very quickly realized there isn't any active shooting going on right here. And one of the hardest parts of the training to imagine is there's a kid bleeding, screaming for help, and you're supposed to go by that kid because if you stop to help that one kid, 6 more might get shot 100 yards away in the school, right? So that's the job. Well, relatively quickly, they had the decision was made that, okay, we don't hear shooting going on right now in this area. Yes, you two start doing that. And they started helping those kids. They ended up bringing, I think, 23 kids out. 21 of them, almost all of them survived. And there was no doubt from the medical side that a significant number of the ones that they pulled out would not have survived if they hadn't been stabilized and or evac'd as quickly as they were, like 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes sitting outside waiting for a plan or a commander to tell you to do something, and more kids would have died. So those guys went in, and because there was, I believe, very specifically one guy who had thought about how to get in, had the tools staged, and then on the medical side was able to be prepared to have those guys have extra gauze, have extra tourniquets, have extra things to take care of those kids when they started doing medical. That's what saved kids' lives. It wasn't a gun. It wasn't better marksmanship. It wasn't a SWAT team. It wasn't a commander making a decision. It was training and practice. Stress inoculation, stress acclimation, reality-based training, even if that reality-based training was only a guy who was visualizing and imagining needing to put on a medical kit really fast or needing to get the bolt cutters really fast.
Yeah, I mean, you're fooling yourself if you think you can't prepare for these or you don't need to prepare for these things. I'll tell you just personally, I try to stay fit as I can at my age, right? We had some high school role players, and that's a big school we were at. Dragging a 160-pound high school kid or carrying him on my shoulders the length of the school, it kicked my ass. Yeah. So if you don't ever think about that, then you're going to fail. You're going to fail.
And we had guys in a rifle class, indoor range rifle class. Had a guy. It was like a CrossFit workout all of a sudden. It was a relatively athletic group, and not necessarily physical. I always talk about the difference between fitness and athleticism, right? Fitness is the raw materials, stamina, speed, strength. Athleticism is how you use it. So if I have we had a 78-year-old guy on the range yesterday, and I had a 15-year-old high school wrestler on the range yesterday. So that 15-year-old high school kid was there with his dad taking the pistol class. He moves. When he moves, it looks more athletic. It looks more graceful and powerful and fast than the 78-year-old guy. The 78-year-old guy was moving, right? With his body and his wear and tear, he was moving athletically, and he wasn't, some genetic, cyborg kind of fitness guy. He was just a not overweight, not broken down guy willing to do the work, right? And so we did a class at an indoor range in Wisconsin Firearms Training Center, great range outside of Milwaukee, the other day, and a guy puked. We were doing a flow drill or a wind sprint drill or something, and he literally
that's when you know it's good.
Yeah,
right.
He left nothing behind, and that's I'm used to that. I'm a co-owner in the Endeavor CrossFit in Ohio. I'm used to seeing that in the CrossFit gym when guys work out so hard that they lose it. This guy worked out so hard while shooting and while reloading his gun and while paying attention to what was going on around him. He pushed himself to that point. And one of the guys that publicly posted within the last 24 hours we made some comment. Thanks for, if nothing else, thanks for reminding me that I need to drop that extra 10 pounds, right? Like, that's real. And if all you're doing is standing around shooting, running on a timer and trying to get a better score, especially if you do the thing like, people will post because of our weight forward, kind of natural, lowered center of gravity, drive out, manage recoil, fire a quick string, kinesthetic alignment, that shooting position, people will get on the internet, well, that looks like that would cause a lot of fatigue. How long are you planning on shooting somebody in the mall? Because I think it's like 3-4 seconds, maybe, right? Like, I get it. Shockingly, we don't design our training for an 8-hour day on the range. If you're looking at pictures of people leaning forward and shooting the target and thinking, well, I don't know, you must have short classes. Our classes are 8 hours long. You could never do that for 8 hours. Yes, they do. And housewives do it, and dentists do it, and accountants do it, and 78-year-old guys do it. They stand out on the range in the hot sun and do the work. And if you're looking at that at home and you're thinking, oh, that looks like it causes a lot of fatigue. I like to bring the gun to my eyes. I don't bring my eyes to the gun. You have no idea what you're talking about. You are doing sport shooting, competition shooting, and you need to shush when the big boys are talking about defensive training.
So, even something as small as that, or like you said, the guy that puked during training, even if that's not the intent, I think it's very important to push yourself and go outside your comfort zone, and all sorts of training, whether it be, working on managing unknown contacts or medical training or shooting or fitness. You have to push yourself to that limit so you know that when you get there, it's not time to panic. I can take a second, I can breathe, I can get through this adversity, and I can continue to operate effectively. And that's where I think it's really important to try to bring all this stuff together and really try to make it work for yourself, whatever level that is, right? You mentioned there's a 78-year-old guy, 15-year-old guy. I can't run as fast as a 15-year-old guy. I'm pretty sure I can run faster than a 78-year-old guy. So whatever level, fast is for you, you should be trying to get
exactly. There. That's the idea, right? Like, so we'll do a chart, and it's like, we do fitness, athleticism, and the idea is that good, bad, like all the way across, right? I don't know. Can you see that there? There we go. Like, I don't care what your fitness level is, 1 through 10. It's bad if you're being lazy, right? If your athleticism, if the way you use that stuff is really low, that's bad. It's good if I don't care if you're unfit and you come to a class but you work hard, that's good. If you're super crazy fit, you can't be lazy at the class and look over at the guy who's older than you or more out of shape than you or heavier than you and say, well, I'm moving faster than that guy. I don't care if you're moving faster than that guy. Even when it comes to shooting, we have guys in classes who are like, I can see it in their eyes. They're like, I'm telling them to move faster, and I'm sure you guys have seen this. You're saying shoot faster, and they're looking around, and they're still they're like, some guys will actually say it out loud. I'm shooting faster than everybody here, and you're trying to make me shoot faster. I go, I'll look at it, I'm like, well, this is the slowest class I've seen in 5 years. So are you proud of yourself? It's like the old thing, the old adage, like, okay, you're the smartest guy in the room of dumb people. Like, it doesn't matter. Work, reach your potential.
That's exactly when we talk about competency. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You need to be the best you that you can be. You need to be better when you leave than you got here.
Yeah, and some people can pass the qual when they show up to the course. Who cares? So you can pass the qual, great, right? Like, can you be better? Can you pass the qual faster? Do that, because I want you to stop the bad guy faster. Does anybody not want to stop the bad guy faster? Why not pass the qual faster instead of with a higher score? I used to get that from the training sergeants, right? 6 seconds for a string of fire, I'm done in 2.5. Not because I'm amazing, just because 6 seconds was far too long for that string of fire. That block on the qual course. But I get, average 86%, right? But I'm the fastest 86% I can be when the minimum score is 85. That's my goal. My goal isn't to get to 99 and use all the time. You got plenty of time, Pincus. What are you rushing for? Like, is that guy going to be with me at 2 o'clock in the morning on the street? Like, hey, take your time. Don't worry, that guy can't hit. No, he's probably going to want me to shoot that guy really fast. So let's do that. The range is a racetrack, right? Like, when you're on the range, you can kind of choreograph everything. But I tell people, like, the carrying a gun, talk about motivating people, right? Even the people that are coming to the range and coming to training, imagine if all you ever did in terms of driving was like 10 and 2 with the guy with the clipboard, making sure that you're scanning all your mirrors at least once every 60 seconds, every 30 seconds or whatever, and 10 and 2, and you adjusted the seat, and you don't turn the radio on, and you look at your dashboard and you look up and you're doing everything exactly the way you start braking, you turn your turn signal on 375 feet before you're going to turn, like that. If you're doing all that, right, all you ever do is drive in a parking lot full of cones doing that. You can do it a lot. A parking lot full of cones doing the textbook driver's ed thing. I don't care. Do it once a week for 30 years. And then the first time you ever actually drive a real car on the street is when your family member is bleeding out, screaming in pain in the back seat. You have to cross a downtown metroplex in a snowstorm during rush hour to get them to a trauma center. Like, that's the first time you actually drive. How well is that going to go, right? But that's what people who go and do IDPA, right, or go and just do bowling pin or just go do target shooting and then carry the gun, like the first time they're ever really going to need to use that gun in a mall, in the convenience store, in their house is not going to be like the qualification course. But I don't think we do a good job of reminding people of that or making them take it seriously. Going back to that motivation question.
Yeah, and I think that's where the education piece comes in.
And I'll touch on that. What's funny about that, too, is you can go shoot IDPA, IPSC, and all those shooting sports and still go training.
Yeah.
I mean, the skills translate. But
it's like,
or transfer.
Sure. And so, because a lot of people will be like, why are you anti-competition shooting? I'm not anti-competition shooting. I don't have time to fit that in my life versus like take my wife walleye fishing or something that makes, life better. But, people get mad when you're like, that's not defensive training. I understand it's building shooting skills over here and having fun with friends and like-minded people. Just people get mad when you don't call it defensive training or when you say it isn't defensive training. So.
Well, we want it acknowledged as an equal too, and it's not. It's like you can go practice and train, or you can go do a competition. If you want to do both, I'm going to do a competition this evening, right?
Yeah.
We're doing a little thing for the Northland Fishing Game. We're going to raise some money for the youth shooting sports program. I'm going to do some trap shooting. I don't think that because I'm going to go out there and beat your ass on the trap field, by the way.
You probably will, maybe.
Right? With a gun that has wood on it, if I can find one, if I can borrow one from somebody. I don't think that doing that means I am ready to defend my family with a shotgun in my house. Like, I understand that those two things are totally separate, right? A lot of people don't. Yeah. Or they rationalize. Maybe intellectually they do,
What if the
but
bad guys are
emotionally-
flying in on brooms like Harry Potter? Trap
be
shooting
good,
helps,
apparently.
right? Yeah.
Touche, sir.
Yes.
Touche.
Learn to swing through those guys. So, yeah, it'll be good. We'll have a good time tonight. Hey, let me go back. Here's a regular follower, Matt. He's saying, can you ask Rob about what we talked about the other day? Well, Rob doesn't know. So let me put it this way. And bear with me, Matt, if I don't sum this up. His question is, hey, every trainer says do it my way, do it my way, do it my way. And this is from a post he made that was in his world that I read. So I'm going to try to summarize this. He wanted to hear from instructors like, why do you tell people to do the things the way you do? Why does it have to be my way or the highway? So somewhat, first of all, Matt hasn't trained with us, any of us. So I'll say he would probably be surprised how much, first of all, we do explain why we do everything we do. And then he's asking, not everybody can do everything the same way. What if a person's in a wheelchair? What if a person has MS? Well, I've seen you on I've seen you on the range yesterday, and I've seen, in real life. And then I've seen times where, you modify techniques for people that can't do certain things. So first of all, Matt, if you dealt with any of these gentlemen on the range, they would accommodate people's, I don't want to call them disabilities, differences. Hey, my elbow doesn't lock all the way out. I had a motorcycle accident. Or, hey, yes, I have MS and this hand is weak or whatever. I've seen Rob help those people. So not all instructors are the same, Matt. And I don't want to think you would go to an instructor that said, I don't care that your right arm's half broke. I want you to do it this way. That's not a thing. But Rob, why is it so many, let's say, bigger name brands, well-known people are, it's my way or it doesn't matter? I mean, is it, I don't want to say it's just an ego thing, but people are, I've seen you do things multiple ways if a person has issues, but isn't there, I like when I came to you, and I tell everybody this, why I'm excited about this training, is Rob said, do it this way, because it's the best way I know to do it right now. Like, maybe you'll invent something better, but right now this works for the most amount of people in the most wide variety of circumstances, so to speak. And it's kind of like, I've seen people, they're mad. Like, Rob thinks you got to do it his way. But how many people don't listen to the science behind it, I guess? Do you beat your head against that all across the country?
Not with students that actually show up, like guys on the internet, right? Maybe, for sure. But like guys who actually show up, it's like, and I can't say it. Some guys who show up will leave and say, no, he was an ass. He was adamant. He was like, he didn't have any room for flexibility. When I say, hey, do it this way because this is the best, and I explain the physiology, anatomy, context of use, all that stuff, and you say, well, this is how I've always done it. And I say, okay, why? Because that's how I've always done it. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's retarded. This is life and death stuff. Like, you should have better answers than this is how, like, what, just because your uncle taught you that when you were 12, that doesn't make it awesome. Just because the Marine Corps taught you that, or the Navy taught you that, or the Army taught you that in 1993 doesn't make it the best choice for you, again, with the Springfield in the mall tomorrow. So if they don't have a logic behind it, guys get frustrated, right? So they leave with this idea that, well, he just told me to do it his way. Well, no, if you didn't hear the answer, or you didn't want to hear the answer, or you'd rather be a whiny bitch and go say, oh, I didn't get to do it my way, so I'm going to now say Rob's bad, when you're just not willing to do the intellectual work, because guess what? You're probably never going to have to use your gun except on the range. That's frustrating for me. But for the most part, people that come to the classes, they get the experience of me saying in the morning, there's two kinds of comfort here for learning. There's intellectual comfort and physical comfort. Physical comfort's relatively straightforward. I'm going to tell you how I want you to do something. Based on all my experience and all my prejudice and all my bias and all my belief, I'm going to give you yesterday, best June 2018 class I can give you. And it's way better than the best June 2012 class I could have given you. But I didn't know that until I presented the information passionately as an advocate for something that I believe is important. This is life and death stuff. And somebody said, no, what about this? And I said, wow, that's better. Okay, so I was wrong. Now we're going to change that, right? It's why we have new books. It's why the course evolves. Oh, that's better. And it may not even be better for everybody, but for you, because your arm works a certain way, or even those things that you have reps, right? Like, people will say, well, I've done it this way forever. Should I change it? I don't know. Like, maybe, right? So people are like, Rob's inflexible. Rob is a passionate advocate for everything that Rob teaches until I realize there's something better I can teach. Sometimes it's because I look at someone and go, you know what? You don't have a left arm. Trying to teach you how to reload the way I teach somebody with two arms isn't going to work. I'm going to teach you something different. It's really obvious, right? Other times it's more subtle. Sometimes it is somewhat subjective, right? Like, if something is really low value, but it's going to cause, you're going to have to go through a really high amount of effort to learn it, right? And like, another chart.
Yes.
Right? If it's really high effort over here, right? And it's very low value, right? Something like which direction your magazine should be in. I used to say, no, you change it because it's better. It is 3% better to have your bullets pointed away from center line. If you want to know why, go watch the video, because it's available all over the place. I've talked about it for years. But if you've had the bullets pointed towards the center line flip, movement forever, then it's going to take, and you've been doing that forever, it's going to take you like 10,000 reps to change. And I'm not going to advocate for you to do that. That's in the Rob Pincus. No, I'm not going to advocate for you to change, because I don't believe you're going to do the work. Honestly, if you've had 10,000 reps of this, and then you just intellectually, even if I convince you intellectually, right? And I say, here's why it's better. And you say, yeah, I get that. And then what you do is you decide that intellectually it does make more sense for you to carry the bullets away, but you don't do the work physically. What's going to happen is in an emergency, potentially you're going to reach down, do your old pattern of movement, and have bullets pointed at you instead of at the bad guy, and we don't want that. So I just say, no, you know what, not for you. There's more important things for you to worry about. There's other things that you should be doing that you really should worry about in terms of getting the work done. And those will be higher value things over here that are easier to work. Now, some things are of so high value that I don't care how hard you're going to have to work to change it, right? So I want you to work really crazy hard because it's totally worth it. And I got to explain that to you. So yeah, I'm going to be passionately advocating for something for you. It might be different than the person next to you. It might be different for this guy in this job description that has a different area of responsibility. But as an educator, I owe you that information. I'll be honest, I don't, as long as the guy's willing to explain why, and that's what I think I am, is that guy who's willing to explain why and admit that I've been wrong, and I'm sure I was wrong about something yesterday. I wish I knew what it was. As soon as I find out, I'll stop saying it, and I'll say something different. But there are a lot of guys out there who aren't willing to be wrong. They aren't willing to have the conversation, or they're not even equipped to have the conversation, just regurgitating something they learned from the Army or something they learned at the police academy or they did in the police department when they were training for 20 years. They think they might have done when they were in a shooting, but they don't have a video of it, and this is what I think happened, so they talk about it. I get much more frustrated with the instructor who says, this is not the way, it's just a way. Or the instructor that teaches you 5 different ways to reload and says, pick the one you like. Okay, that guy shouldn't be allowed to take money, right? If you're not willing to passionately advocate for what you are teaching people in a life and death area, stop teaching. If you're not willing to have the conversation with a student when they say why, and you say, well, watch, and you do a demonstration and show them how awesome you are at it, or you say, well, I've survived countless incursions behind enemy lines. I don't know what you've been doing, you know, and that's not an answer. You owe them. They're paying you. It's not the public sector where the sergeant says go to the class and keep your mouth shut and just do what the instructor says, and when you leave, you can decide if it's good or if it's bad. That is some police law enforcement stuff, right? In the private sector, they pay us. They deserve an explanation. They deserve answers. And if you're not willing to stand behind what you're teaching, grow some integrity, grow some, you know, some passion. If you're taking money for people on a life and death basis for defensive shooting skills, you owe them an answer. You owe them a better answer than it's a way, not the way. That is a cop-out. It's weakness. And it's either intellectual weakness because you can't explain it, or it's integrity weakness that you won't explain it, and you're just taking the money and you're going to go, you know, hit the buffet afterwards or something. I don't know what. I don't even know how people sleep well at night when they say, I don't care how you get through this course of fire, just do the best you can. Well, then why, send a monkey with a clipboard and a buzzer, because you aren't an educator, right? What do you
Hashtag send them hunky and a buzzer. There was some great
with
ones
a clipboard.
yesterday.
With
a clipboard.
That guy, somebody listen will get this.
Hold on.
That
Monkey.
guy couldn't guard a pallet of bananas.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
come out of my
I
mouth
need
in the
that
past.
clipboard, yes, and timer. I'm going to use that because yesterday's, I got to touch on that. So I have an employee, you know, we try to be a good host. So other than I gave him huge spiders in the cabin. But so John
and there's no AT&T on range.
John sent me updates, you know. So I know that I got to sit in on Rob's, like when I say opening lecture, you know, safety. I love hearing that because he's got the experience of being on tour and just came from this class, that class. So I leave, I go get the store open, and, you know, in my head I know that they're out on the range by this time. And so some of the updates I get from my employee, you know, it's like, hey, he started putting them online, like, Henry, don't be that's communist. Henry, don't be a communist. You know, the 15-year-old, that was awesome. And then there was the one I got to hear in real life was, baby Jesus didn't make your bullets go straight. You did that. So,
well, it's true. People are like, oh, like
Yeah.
It's like you've been for 3 hours. You've been like kind of struggling. It's like that experiential learning, right? And then all of a sudden there's a hockey stick, and it's like, hey, it's working. You did that.
Yeah.
Right. Literally, it's not some kind of, it's not a miracle. It's not aliens taking over your brain.
Yeah.
You know, I do tell people sometimes it's you know, they're shooting at the higher level precision targets, right? Like a 3-inch circle at 20 yards or something, and they're just shanking the shot. They're overthinking it, whatever else. And I'll come in behind them and I'll say, I know they can do it. And I'm just like, drive the gun out. Close an eye. Focus on the front sight. Get your sight alignment. Get your sight picture. Touch the trigger. Slow. And they'll yank the trigger, right? Listen to me. Do it again. Slow press, 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 press. Whatever, however I'm like,
Sure.
neuro, like taking over their brain.
Yeah.
So they'll get 2 or 3 hits in a row, and I'll say, okay, look, now here's the problem we have. It's incredibly expensive to pay me to walk around with you for the rest of your life, or at least anytime you're armed, right? I like to stay in good hotels. I like to eat well. We got to travel. I got the kid, right? It's going to be very expensive for you to carry me around just in case you have to shoot somebody in the face at Arby's, and just so that I can pop up behind you and say, slow press, or you could just do it yourself. So I'm going to go to the other end of the range, and
Sure.
Can we say fuck? Can we do?
Yeah,
you
we
can do that.
Yeah, you unfuck yourself while
There
I
you
go over
go.
here. Like make it a Rob voice. I don't care what the voice sounds like in your head, but slow
Sure.
yourself down because you can do it. And be like, oh, and what I love is like there's a guy right now like he's reaching for the keyboard. Stop! Don't you do it. There's a guy like if he talked to me like that, no, you wouldn't because you didn't even show up to class. Like you have to be willing. If you show up to the class, you wouldn't do that. I'd punch him in the face. He couldn't tell me. I wouldn't let him take my gun. Yes. Well, you know what? You weren't at the class. That's why I didn't do it because you weren't willing to do the work. So stop typing about what you would do or show up.
You hear that? I do see that on a post and people that ride you.
My 1911 get through a class.
Yes.
Show up.
I hear you. Yeah, what was it yesterday? I would venture to I'm going to guess because I don't know, but I saw some older gentlemen, awesome guys, front row, said they drove here a long ways. I think both were prior military, if not. One of them was for sure, had his USMC shirt on. And I think he took a half can of Monster to the back yesterday.
I didn't have a pen, and he wouldn't move. And
you know what? Dude loved it. John
he
said,
got it.
When your employee
got it.
says, Rob just threw a half a can of Monster at a guy in the line. I'm like, okay, how'd that go? He's like, oh, he loved it. They're laughing about it. And I'm like, okay, that's a different story. Right.
But what happens is somebody hears that story fourth hand.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah.
Rob Pincus was throwing cans of soda
turns
water at people and laughing about it.
Yes, he killed baby unicorns. Square,
So, I'm going to tell a little story here.
Tell a story, man.
Moving on.
Do it.
We talked about holistic defensive training for an hour.
You know why? Because it's
very important, yes.
But we
important.
included some things about
We did.
demonstrating, and we included
absolutely.
all that.
I used the word big spider.
But I'm gonna delve because I got what's the word I'm trying
a
to say?
brain cramp right now.
No,
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a
Erect.
good word. I got flamed on one of these message boards, and
That's
and
okay.
it warmed my heart because I've become well known enough that I've got people that hate me
You got
now.
haters.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Well done.
yes, right. But a student that went to our carbine class did not like the fact that I didn't demonstrate, and it's a big deal to a lot of the guys in the tactical community. And hey, look at me! I can hit steel at 50 yards and run up here in a gas mask and do this and that and all that. I mean, how important is that really?
Well, here, this would be my premise. Knowing you as an educator and having you certified to teach programs under my company, I would say that you almost certainly demonstrated.
Yeah, there's
Now,
certain things that we do demonstrate.
What you didn't do was show off.
Right.
What you didn't do was get into an ego contest with your students. What you didn't do was tell people that you'll retire if anybody ever beats me at this drill, right? Like, because you're not an infant. You're not an intellectual infant that thinks you need to shoot better than your students. Or even necessarily shoot well. Put me in a Stephen Hawking. It's available, right? I should start a GoFundMe. Buy me the Stephen Hawking chair, and I will prove something I've been saying for 20 years. I can sit in the Stephen Hawking chair and have the little computer talk for me, and everyone on the range will become better. They will be better prepared. I demonstrate critical incident reload. I demonstrate the extended shooting position. I demonstrate all kinds of stuff. What I don't demonstrate is how well or badly I can shoot. Right, I'll do that with Latham. We have a good time with it, right? He likes to say, "You're a good shooter, Rob," and then I prove I'm not, and then he coaches me, and then all of a sudden I do better. So that's what we do because he is on marksmanship stuff, on shooting stuff, like he's a wizard, right? And I don't honestly, if it's chests at 20 yards, I'm happy. If it's a headshot at 10, 15 yards, I'm happy. Like, do I practice? Yeah. Do I care about carrying a gun and being responsible with it? Absolutely. Do I care about hitting a bottle cap at 100 yards? So am I going to put a red dot and a compensator on my 4-inch single stack gun? No, because I don't find practical value. Do I understand it would make it easier for me to hit targets further away? Yep. Would it make it, maybe I could shoot some weird tiny increment faster? Maybe. but I'm not worried about being a great shooter. And the students, and I'm going to use air quotes, because a guy who shows up at a class to show me how well he shoots or see how well I shoot probably isn't my student, right? Not everyone is my student.
In this case, that was absolutely true. But
yeah. And it's like, you know what? I don't know if you were sent there by the department, right? Or if you paid because you're a training hobbyist and you wanted to collect the certificate. Like, I don't know why you're here, but if you came to see me shoot, you showed up for the wrong show, man, because all I'm going to do is talk about shooting for the most part. But if I need to show someone something, I'm going to demonstrate it. And when you demonstrate something, again, I think an instructor needs to ask, what am I really trying to show these people? Am I trying to show them how good I am at something? Am I trying to set a standard, which implies I'm better than all of them? If you're you're intellectually and professionally weak, if the only people you're willing to go out there in front of and talk to are people that you are better than, right? You are professionally weak as an instructor if you think you have to be better than all of your students. Like when I was teaching Green Berets and Navy SEALs in 2004 and I was making them more dangerous to their enemies and better equipped to survive, did I think I was better than them at anything other than teaching that material and helping them prepare? No. Was I better than them at any of those things? Probably not, right? Maybe pistol shooting, because a lot of those guys in those days weren't using the pistol a lot. Maybe maybe if we had a competition, especially if I scripted the competition, because guess what? That's what your instructor's doing. The guy who sets a standard that impresses the crap out of you has spent 10,000 rounds in the last year being good at that demo so he can impress you. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of those. I'm friends with them. We're all buddy. We go out in the range. I've seen those guys come through classes or whatever and drive out and click and look at their gun. But on their YouTube channel, like, I'm going to show you how to handle a tap rack, SAS, tap rack bang, set my gun up and click tap rack. And it's like super smooth butter, super crazy fast on the take they chose to put on their YouTube. But in a figure 8 drill, when they go click and look at their gun, and go, oh, you don't see the response. You don't see the learned response of getting ready to tap the gun, moving offline, and then like, blew that one. Let's start over. I'd love that. High five them, because that's what I'll do when I'm doing video work and I drive out and I thought the gun was ready and it wasn't, and I click. My response kicks in. I've seen the video because of the way I train, right? But how do you demonstrate that to a student? It doesn't matter if I show them that, because I could be faking it. So what are they looking at? I have to intellectually get them to understand it and explain the science behind contextually appropriate training and stimulus response patterns and human habit formation when there's a cue and then you go through your routine and the brain feels a reward at the end. Like, I got to explain neuroscience and cognitive decision making and non-cognitive decision making far more than I have to explain where your finger should touch the trigger. Like, if the gun fits your hand, go, right? That's where your finger should touch the trigger, where it touches it, and move forward. Because worrying about the last nuance of marksmanship or 2/10 on a standards drill is a distraction for the hobbyist, and so is instructors showing off. So are you doing a super slow, methodical reload demo, or are you showing off how fast you can reload, right? I can demonstrate the reload with my finger gun and this pen, right? If we imagine I just got slide lock and I get my weak hand off the gun, and as I come back in, I use my thumb to release the magazine. I find a fresh magazine. I follow my body up. I put the magazine in the gun. I rack the slide, and then I either stay in the ready position and continue to assess, or I drive out and shoot. If you know how semi-automatic guns work, and especially if you're standing on a range with one on your hip, that demonstration does a hell of a lot more to teach you how to reload it in an emergency than me standing with my back to you and you seeing nothing as I do it super crazy fast, except the timer when I say, pretty cool, huh? Yeah, all right, let's go. Let's get it done.
Hey, have you ever seen that exact thing right there?
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Actually,
That was really good. It's
Yeah.
like he's been around other instructors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
YouTube videoist. You know, is that video professional?
You know, honestly, this is kind of the choir, right? You're preaching to the choir.
Right. Hopefully you're not. Like, I'm hoping somebody, please have the I don't know what it is. Have the integrity to post the comment. Ask why. If you don't understand that, ask why. Yeah. If you want to challenge it, be prepared to explain why you're challenging it. Not, well, those instructors all do it. Why is Pincus right? Because I'm right, and I can explain why. Not because I'm outnumbered. That doesn't make them right.
But I mean, we do demonstrate quite a bit.
That's the fallacy, right? It's a flawed premise. Because yes, I do. I demonstrate to teach. I don't demonstrate to show off. That's what you mean.
Yeah.
So we're kind of getting close to what time we got? Yeah, we're getting close to the end of our time here. So
No, we can't be close to the end of our time already.
Absolutely.
We've only been
Have
into
we?
it for an hour and 24 minutes.
Really?
If you guys want another half
my
hour.
time?
Hour and
off?
24
All right.
minutes. I was told this was only going to be an hour.
Oh, I think it's a couple. 9:30 to 11:30, whatever.
9:30 to
What-
11:30.
Let's talk about let's promote Rob. You know, even though he's the most famous guy here. Seriously, new books that are already out
Yeah,
there.
and I
new
keep
books.
giving them away. I don't.
Yeah.
I would just.
Like I don't even have
You
one, and I
slide
gave
that-
you
slide that
spiders.
over here.
Here, let me give you this
This is
custom
awesome.
copy.
I did. I
Made
came
you.
in and I said, so here's the new book. Ernie.
Yeah, it looks
you know,
pretty.
It's got pictures and stuff
I
in
would-
it. Like
it-
that's.
I was
this is-
actually
this is
still
what the
impressed.
draft. Yeah, it's like, but I did get. I think there's a case coming to. See, tell you what. If
Today.
I think
Get
it's going to
delivered
get there.
today.
You know what? You guys here, talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. Yep. Mike, let's talk amongst ourselves. You know, it's funny if we would you say let's talk like he's not here. Do we really kiss Rob's ass?
No.
No. But it's fun to finally have him here because you probably can't find a podcast that we don't be like, well, you know, we were talking with Rob about this or arguing with Rob about this or whatever. So it's nice to finally have him here so he could look right at the camera and tell some people, shut up, you're doing it wrong. And here's why.
No, not shut up. Talk because
Yes,
you're doing it wrong.
you're
And I want you to
exactly right.
try to explain yourself.
Yes.
Explain what I see as your silliness. Try to explain it without referencing your resume, my resume, your shooting ability, your popularity, the number of followers you have, or the number of anything else, except for the intellectual defense and explanation for why you do what you do. That's not subjective. Not because some other guy did it, not because it's what you always done. Really intellectually, objectively explain it. That's the challenge. Like, you want to challenge that. I don't care about your time on El Presidente.
Hey, Shane.
Yes, sir.
Is there that thing that can happen, that magical thing you do where Rob sees the comments up here at all, or is that
Oh,
not
I got him.
happening?
No, he's got.
Okay.
He's watching.
Yeah.
So,
So you see,
I was just going back through.
I
and
like
see-
Dave Maris. You can say the F word out loud. I just don't. But
Yeah.
we welcome it. I followed that Dave Maris guy. Hi, Dave. Thank you very much. I followed him when he, like when people go to, whether it's IDS ID, that's what we call it, right? Or DFC ID. And so all of a sudden people start showing up in Rob's social media world, commenting because they're a candidate, instructor candidate. And I followed that Dave Maris guy from the get-go because kind of like day one, he's like, it's time to see what this shit's all about with this guy, whippersnapper. What's he done? And Dave seems to have a kind of a warrior past, whatever. He's went and done shit that I haven't done. And it was super cool to watch just because when I say I've been there, not in the military, Dave, I've been there as in the candidate to where like day two, it's like, hey, this is pretty awesome. It's a lot of shit. They sure said a lot of big words and this and that. And then just to watch the guy say, this shit works. I like this, He's been over there and
Well, it's
had
an
people.
epiphany. It really is.
It really is.
If you listen to us talk for the last hour and a half,
yeah.
like it should have been like you should have had a couple of moments, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you weren't listening
Yeah.
because it's truth.
Because first
the
of all,
way
a
people-
monkey with a timer and a clipboard can do that other shit.
They can,
Getting that tattoo
right?
right there. If that didn't change their ways.
It seems like we might need a patch. And we certainly need a meme.
Oh, my God.
I just need a monkey. Somebody
Another-
bring me a
another
monkey
patch.
so I can take the
Sennell-
picture.
By the way, John sent comment and said the books aren't.
And the
delivered
monkey
yet.
needs a plate carrier and a fucking battle belt.
He
Oh,
does,
yeah.
Obviously.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking to see if we got any more questions here before we talk about.
So high dive.
So no, the book
Yeah.
is. I was gonna say if the book would be there. I'll tell you what. You know what? Somebody tonight at Northland Fish and Game. They're gonna get this. They're gonna get the original draft, Rob's original edit draft copy of
That's
Level
cool.
2 DSF because I don't have books and I just found out that the books aren't gonna make
Just
it.
to autograph it.
So yeah,
right?
well, I mean, it's kind of cool, right? Like if nothing else, it's you can read it, right? And that would be nice. But I don't know, it's kind of collectible, and it was on CVO Gun Talk, so
That's right.
there. So
Right
somebody
here.
tonight is. I don't know if we're auctioning it. I don't know if I'm giving it away. I don't know what's going to happen, but somebody's getting that tonight because I wanted to have the book so we could sell them and get all the money to the youth shooting sports. We'll do something else. We'll do something fun.
We'll do something like
I hope
like
a monkey's there with a
kids can
clipboard and a
wrestle.
timer.
Yeah, kids can wrestle you or something. Yeah.
Why would you come up
No,
with that?
you wrestled that.
Ha!
Yeah.
Nacho Libre.
Yes.
But why
Don't
kids?
you remember the youth? The youth thing? He actually wrestled that kid. They were going at
But
it.
he was a college wrestler.
Well, I know,
Don't make it weird.
'cause
I did ask.
Don't make
I
it
did
weird.
ask one of the kids on the range yesterday though if Ernie bought him those pants
No.
because they were
I got-
embroidered
I got-
like you like.
That
So I did
Sparkly
ask him-
jeans- sparkly jeans?
Yeah, I did ask that. I said, did Ernie
Yes.
buy you those pants? Which I guess came out awkward because he was 15. And,
Yes.
and his dad kind of looked at me like almost concerned, like, he knows Ernie. I wonder if Ernie is buying him pants. That's weird.
No, that was another. I can't remember if John posted that on social media or sent it to my phone saying he just asked Henry if you bought his pants for him. I'm like, that's all right.
Henry worked hard, and I think the problem is, I always like when I went down and did the Baja 1000 race. In my head, like in Rob World, I see a lot of like, I don't know, just weakness, right? I look around and I'm like, well, when are you gonna do training near me? Right, I'm an hour from you.
Yeah.
Right, I travel Earth. Like I teach, I've taught on 5 continents. Like I travel the globe, and I'm in Cedar Rapids, and some guys in Dubuque.
Yeah.
When are you gonna do some training near Dubuque?
Yeah.
I'm near to like I mean I am an Arby's away, man. Like how close do you want me to get? Like invite me to your house. I'm probably not coming over, so I'm not getting that much closer, right? But so I think a 15. So when I go and do Baja, I was like, they're letting me do it. Like that in and of itself, it can't be. Watch Dust to Glory a billion times. It can't really be that bad because they're letting me do it, right? So I think this a lot of people show up to class and they're like, I've seen the pictures. Like that guy's out of shape. That guy's fat. There's a woman in that class. I'm not gonna have to work. I'm a shooter. They come to class and then they're told like, hey, you suck at that. You should be better. Here's how you get better. Do it. Oh, look, it works. Keep doing it. Stop doing it wrong. And I go over here and they're like, what just happened? Right? Because on the internet, they saw that guy is like, he wouldn't talk to me like that. Well, it's more efficient than playing the, you know what, you're really well dressed today, and by golly, you're a good person, but I noticed that your trigger press isn't as good as it could be. If you would just maybe smooth it out a little bit and not do that thing where you wait a long time and yank the shit out of it and miss every time, right? Like, I don't have the patience to get through that whole, like, make you feel like a good person when you're being a bad person thing. I'd rather just let your dopamine drop and say, you're a bad person right now. You could be better based on potential. Be better. So I think really this Henry he showed up yesterday. Like his dad's bringing him, like, school's out, and dad's taking me to a gun class. We're gonna go to the range, father-son bonding, and I'm like, first of all, and Hans, I love Hans to death. He's been, last time he showed up dressed like the Blackhawk catalog, right? And yesterday, I don't know what happened. Like I don't know. Like,
He was a little sweet from the commercials yesterday.
Was he trying out for Rock of Ages? Like, is there a Rock of Ages production at the local?
I love you, Hans, but you
Renaissance
did look
fair?
like Little Sweet, but just with shorter hair.
Mirrored glasses and a bandana, and like he was using these. He wanted to, and God bless him. He's like, my wife doesn't get out to the range as much. I want to shoot this gun. So he shows up with a purple Glock, and he wants to make sure her gun's running right. And I'm like, man. So I think Henry's like, he's making fun of my dad. And then I started making fun of him to make him feel better. But I think at some point he was working hard. Like, it was a hot day. And he was working, and he was being told not to do it wrong because he could do it better. And I really think at some point he's like, wow, this was work. This wasn't just coming to the range. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, it's usually the person that gets brought to the class that really doesn't know what they're getting into. And I don't care. Like, I tell them in the morning, if you're here for fun with guns, you showed up to the wrong place. And it's not because it's not the ego, like, rite of passage. You must do the work to prove you deserve to carry a gun. No, you do the work so you get better. Right? He's 15. He doesn't have a concealed carry permit, but there's guns staged in that house, and now he is far more equipped to defend himself or his family if he needs to than he was 2 days ago. And I think he hopefully has a better perspective on what training and practice is like as opposed to fun with guns. But he worked hard.
That was a super cool father-son thing, and not just like, oh, go do this because it's father-son. Is they both wholeheartedly have the interest in being responsible, doing the right thing, and like you said, they openly say this is a household that has guns, and yeah.
I've had 3 of those this tour. Father sons that came in, and the sons either high school or just graduated high school, or just about to graduate high school. One was in Illinois, and the other one was down in Georgia, and it's cool to see, right? My dad taught me how to shoot, except your dad was smart enough not to try to teach you how to shoot in the backyard. He said, let me fund you to go to a professional school where you can actually learn this for realsies and take it more seriously, because it's like I always say, like, I don't take my wives to the range and teach them how to shoot, right? It's like Sarah, when it came time for her to learn how to shoot, and I took her, Jeff Kirsten worked with her, and Dave Maris, I think, might have worked with her a little bit. Mike Lowe worked with her. Like, I put her in the hands of professionals that I know how to teach, because our dynamic as husband and wife doesn't lend itself well to the learning environment, right?
Well, a lot don't.
Somebody else did that.
Well, Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
did.
yeah, you did.
My wife and my daughter both went to somebody else
Exactly.
to take
Yeah.
to take
Now,
this coursework
knowing
because
your wife-
they weren't going to listen to me.
Knowing your wife well enough now, I could see her. It'd be like, "Phew, where's Sophie? You told me Sophie
Yeah,
would be here. I want
exactly.
to talk to the dog.
Where's the dog?
Yeah. Oh, God bless you. But no, hey, we had, no, you weren't there. I actually taught a class all alone. Saturday morning. No.
Shocker.
Yeah, there you
What?
go.
Shocker.
Yeah, what? Saturday morning, we had one of the females in class was like, her and her husband own a gun. He's going to carry it. She doesn't intend to, but it's in their house. And he said, I want you to know how to use it because it's in our home, even though I'm going to carry it. And absolutely smart kind of husband that said, go to this class and learn from these people. I'll go next time. Like, don't go to the same class together. And, it's awesome. Do you ever see couples, here we go, unscripted question.
Because the rest of this has just been all teleprompter.
Right.
All teleprompter up till now. Now we're going rogue.
Yep.
I think I mentioned tangent earlier.
Yeah. Teleprompter says monkey clipboard. What is that one? Men and women show up together that are a couple. Do you see it that happens that she shoots better than him when they listen to what they're supposed to do mechanically? She shoots better, and it crushes the dude's ego, and he quits learning that day. Do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, it has happened.
I've seen it bad.
All the way to the level of I think it probably happens more, and this is not, I don't have the time, right, to do the CCW class kind of thing, right? If I could justify the time, and I do it sometimes just for fun. I jump in, I do the family firearm safety seminars and stuff like that during the winter when I do it out at Bristlecone in Colorado when I'm out there at the Western HQ, and we try to set a couple up during the winter, and I'm home for 4 or 5 days in a row, which is a lot for me. I'll go over and do a 4-hour seminar on one of those days, and work with really entry level, meet the kids out on the range and all that. We did one here. A few years ago.
And Ken's coming out to do another one.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ken Crawford has a great program that he runs, very similar program, and they're fun. But I don't do a lot of the CCW course kind of thing, and for whatever reason, people think, well, I'm going to do I'm not ready for the advanced course. Well, the IDS course is the fundamental course. Right?
Yes.
Whether I don't care that it's hard. It's hard because carrying a gun in public requires you to be trained to a certain level, I think, and experience. You have to think about certain things, and that's the day one stuff. So the state level or the NRA basic pistol course kind of level, I don't have time to do it. I'd love to do it because I could get to students even earlier.
Yeah.
Right. So I have a team of people all over the world who do it. Now with USCCA, we're going to have another huge growth in people reaching the fundamental student. I think it's awesome. But I think you see that dynamic more, right? Where and it is cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. In this case, it's like the guy brings the woman to the class. He thinks he's the shooter. We very recently, I had a situation where there was a woman who came to class who was so clear that the two guys that she was with, that sounded weird. It wasn't like a polygamy thing. Like the two guys that accompanied her to the class, one of which was her husband, that they were her support system to the point of interference, right? Where she didn't load the magazine. They were loading, and she would ask dumb questions like, how do you put the holster on or whatever? Like, are you kidding me? It's belt loops. You tell me you don't know how to dress, right? Like, you probably obsess way more over how your belt goes and how your belt looks than any guy you know, but you're worried about putting on the thing because we create that behavior. And it was beautiful because at the debrief, she had kind of gone through that where I separate them, and I'm just like, you stay over there, you shut up, you stop talking to her. If you want to run the class for everybody, cool. But you're not allowed to talk to her just because you're familiar with her and because they allow her to become dependent on their information or whatever, approval or whatever. And it's like, you obviously were smart enough to bring her to me, right? So let that happen. Let that play out. Stop allowing her to ask you the question. And that's hard. So sometimes I do the guy a favor in some cases by simply saying, you're not allowed to talk to him, right?
Yeah.
Stop talking to him. You go over there. You want to ask a question, you ask any of those three people until I say no more, because one of them might be that guy too, right? So you can ask somebody over there if you need something, but really that's my job, right? Don't deprive me of my job. You're paying me. Somebody's paying me to do this. Let me do it. Stop asking them. And sometimes I'll even separate them at the reload table, because then it's as often as it's the guy being like, hey, here's what you should do, it's the woman saying, what should I do? And that's unfortunate. So we try to break that dynamic up. But at the debrief, one of the questions is like, well, how do I practice this? Because honestly, again, that dynamic, I don't know that I'm going to get as good a practice session out of it if I'm practicing with him there, because he'll worry more about me and I want him to be able to practice and I'll practice and we won't worry about each other. We'll just practice. But I know if I go to the range, 15 guys are going to come over and tell me what I should be doing. Who should I listen to? None of them. Listen to none of them. Like 4 guys come over to a woman at the range. 2 want to have sex with you. 1 really wants to help. And the other one thinks he's supposed to because we need to recruit more women into the thing. And that's truth. Yeah. And I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say that, but that's there
true.
Is 25% that they really want to help. 50% are like, ooh, a woman at the range, and 25% are like, oh, let's make sure she has a great experience so she'll come back and bring all her girlfriends.
I heard you talk about that in the debrief yesterday, and I'm like, between owning a gun store and being on a range as an instructor in my local Northland Fish Game, which you're familiar with, just going up there on whatever other day and hearing people interact, you nailed it, what it's like for a woman is going to go out and practice. All of a sudden, everybody thinks she needs to be saved at a gun range.
Well, and especially if it's an attractive woman. And I did say the worst is the woman, the other woman shooter that now wants to come in and protect you like mama bear and make sure that the guys don't bother you and that you, again, it's the same thing. It's so that you feel welcome and you'll join her little women's gun meeting every Thursday night. And instead of just be a human being, it's just, I said, don't listen to any of them.
Yeah.
Tell them all to leave you alone. And when you leave, they should say, wow, she was a B or a C or whatever. Like, you should that. Wow, she wasn't very friendly. You're not there to be friends.
Yeah,
you're there to learn and put your camera phone over here and do 5 reps and then look at the video and say, oh, I need to lean forward more, because you know what to do now. You've been through the best defensive firearms class for fundamental skill development, personal protection when you're caught off guard in a public space that exists on Earth, as far as I know. So use that. Go practice that. You don't have to go to another class. You don't need a coach. And it'd be great if the 3, 4, 5 people you know who also understand this program could all work together. Great. But if not, don't listen to any of them. Because that was the thing was, well, how do I filter through all the advice I'm getting at the range? Tell them all to shush.
Yeah.
Because unless they're wearing a shirt that says world-renowned firearms instructor expert, have you read my 9 books lately? Right? Then tell them to shush because you've already got the information.
Yeah.
I actually had a
Can you fit all that shit on one shirt?
I was visualizing the shirt and it's with little check marks, like the boxes.
Yeah. I'm like everybody else out there teaching a thing, except I've distributed 6 million DVDs and I teach all over the planet and I've worked with some of the biggest companies in the industry and I'm on CVO Gun Talk. So if you have that, if that guy at the range,
you made it when you're here.
If the guy at the range is also awesome in that way and proven that he has your best interest in your personal defense skill development, like go ahead. And that sounds crazy. And again, that'll be the part that gets quoted, right? but it's kind of funny, but it's kind of true. I had a woman in Georgia this year. I'm like, why are you doing that? Right? This is like 11:30, so she's been told 15 times, like you keep doing that. Like, is there something in your head that you're not saying out loud? Why are you doing that? Well, my husband told me to do that. I go, is your husband a world famous firearms instructor that's written a bunch of books and travels the earth doing this? Your husband paid for this course. He sent you here to me.
Yeah.
Stop doing what he says, right? And she looked at me and she actually, like, I don't know, it was something like, well, that seems like a good point. Right.
Yeah.
And I had some friends in the class and they're like, did you really just say that? And I'm like, I guess so. I don't know. But it
clicked.
You know, it's kind of true.
Sure.
Right. Like your husband, I mean, does that come from the Bible? Like you have to listen to, like, let the husband teach the wife.
If you're really
the
into
shooting
Corinthians,
skills.
you believe all that.
I don't know where that comes from. Where
not on the gun range. Go learn from the professional.
I don't know where
guy that wrote 9 books has a super cool car and, kills.
I have more than one cool car.
That's true. I know. Who knows? You're like Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. You got some cool Riviera underneath the cover, probably in barns all around the country.
That was a CL500 Mercedes, not a Riviera. And
he drove a Riviera, and then they crushed it, and he had to go get his Mercedes to drive through the side of the house.
And I don't really like the Mercedes that much. I'm a BMW guy, but if I found one of those in good shape, I'd get it just out of respect to the Swayze.
He's like the Dalton of the
You guys are way out of my comfort zone at this point.
You don't like Roadhouse?
Okay, so imagine.
Of course I like Roadhouse.
Best
However,
line to
the car connection.
There's always got to be a car connection in a good movie.
You guys are talking apples and apples right now.
What if
Eleanor?
we talk about...
what?
I have a question.
Oh, you have
Shane
legitimate.
has a question.
He only does this when it's good shit.
Yeah.
He does it when
good
we're off.
shit.
We're so far off the track.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Let's come back.
Okay.
All right. A couple of things. One, let's do this one first because it's actually on topic.
Oh.
This comes from Courtney. Courtney is saying, but what about the girl or the guy looking for advice? And I'm going to maybe put some words in her mouth, who doesn't want to bother the instructor or thinks it's a stupid question that somebody right next to her can answer. So what advice would you give Courtney for that?
Courtney, stop depriving Earth of that instructor's awesome information and wisdom, because that's what you're doing, right? When you, like, it's what she's talking about is very closely related to one of my biggest pet peeves on the range. You know, if you turn to that person next to you and you say, you know, I don't know, are we allowed to pick up the magazines? Here's the worst case scenario: is you think you're asking something simple, but the fact is that they may not know. And when you turn to them and say, how many rounds are supposed to load in each magazine, and they give you the wrong information or they second guess themselves, well, now you've just perpetuated this like domino effect of the whole class sucking. If I didn't explain it, let's make it my class. If I didn't explain it well enough to everybody that you're confused about what to do in that moment, help me help the class by asking me to explain it better. Right now, to be fair, I don't know how many like direct experiences Courtney has or somebody else, but you guys know we always explicitly say in the morning, like, your job is to ask why. If I haven't explained it well enough when you ask why, I'm not going to say it's another tool for your toolbox, try it, you might like it. I'm going to give you a real answer. So ask why, or ask for clarification, or if you think something's unsafe, raise your hand and say, I must not understand it right, or maybe you did understand it. But here's the thing, so this is the pet peeve, it's all connected. When I'll ask 16 times, anybody have any questions about that? Anybody have any questions about anything we've done? Everybody understands why we did that? Nobody has any questions about this part of it? All right, pick up your magazines, go load up, drink some water. And I'm going to go over here. I want to update my Facebook status. Usually I'm like answering emails or trying to run for multinational companies or whatever, and to talk to the baby, FaceTime. I'm going to do something important in my reload break, reset my brain, or maybe I'm going to just read to see what I'm supposed to say next. I'm not familiar with the curriculum.
Now, Courtney, I apologize, Courtney. Maybe I said it wrong, but she goes, I guess my point is when the instructor is not there.
Oh, like some other time.
Yeah.
Well, again, who are you asking, and why do you think they're qualified, right? Because related to this also, like I'm available 24/7, Courtney. Okay, and I could seriously get on the internet, go to personaleventsnetwork.com, put in the search bar reloads, or go to Google and put in combat focus shooting or I.C.E. training or 18 Zulu, intuitive defensive shooting, and ask your question, because they're literally. I've been talking about guns electronically since 300 baud modems, so I don't know. The information's out there, and you can ask a better source than whoever randomly happens to be next to you at the range. But the other side of that coin is and if you ask it, if you can post it publicly at the combat focus shooting page or in the comments under a video at PDN, you're helping Earth. You're making Earth better, because then that answer is going to be publicly shared also. So what happens is I ask 17 times. Anybody have a question? No, go reload. And then somebody comes up to me and goes, hey, I just wanted to ask you about that reload thing. Like, first of all, either you're like, shut up. You are now, if I give you the best answer ever, you just deprive the other 11 students in the class of that best answer ever, right? So you can send me a private message, and if I quite often I will answer them during those reload breaks, but usually if it's a really good question, I'll say, could you post that publicly, like at the video or on my Facebook page or somewhere in the I.C.E. training discussion group? Post it publicly so that I can answer it. Now I'm not going to have to answer it 9 times today in this class during 9 different reload breaks, but also it makes Earth better, right? Like when I run for president, the shirt's going to say, like the hat's going to say, make Earth better.
Sure.
Lead by example. If America's doing what we're supposed to be doing, we make Earth better, right?
I actually had a lot of interactions this weekend in this training, so that's why I'm bringing it up again. But so the instructors were 2 SWAT guys and a fire medic from the East Coast, right? So experts. On the law enforcement side, we're clearing these rooms. We're at the point where we're shooting simunitions at these paper target bad guys, and they are dead set on shooting the ocular cavity, and they call it the switch. You got to hit the switch and all that triangle and blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm with a bunch of, I'm a reserve cop. I do it 3 times a month at the most, right? I haven't done any CQB in about a year. Got full-time cops that have never done it. These are all small-town officers, right, that are here together. They've never worked together and all that. And they kept harping on this precision shooting. And I didn't say anything, and I didn't say anything. And then I literally heard your voice in my head say, quit being a pussy, have the moral, have the intestinal fortitude to say something if you don't agree with it. I said, hey, you're encouraging these guys with all these precision shots. Isn't it better for them to get more rounds on target faster and go for the physiological stop, shooting the high center chest? And we talked about it, and eventually the instructor actually agreed with me. So, I mean, it's very important to bring those up for everybody to hear.
Yeah,
These
no,
questions.
it is. It's cliche, but again, this is one of those cliches. It's not. There's myth, and then there's like the cliche because it's true, which is if you're thinking it, there's probably other people that are thinking it, right? So that's the class dynamic. And if Courtney's talking about when she's alone at the range or something and she's not sure what to do or how to do something, I guess at a fundamental level, you shouldn't go to the range to work on something. Like if you're like, I really want to work on presentation from the holster, appendix carry under a hoodie because it's getting cold out there and I'm going to start carrying that way. Going to the range without any professional instruction, guidance, at least watching the videos and understanding it, doing it dry with a cert pistol or a banana stuck in your pants or whatever a few times, going randomly to the range and seeing someone like, he's got a tactical vest. Let me talk to you. Like, oh, how do you just, I can't look at a room. Like you said, the unassuming guy might be the most actual badass in the room. So how do you choose? Again, it's got to be the guy that has the shirt on that says, I'm a world-renowned firearms instructor that's written 9 books and distributed 6 million DVDs. If that guy's wearing that shirt, go talk to him. But otherwise, how do you know who to ask and what the validity of the answer is going to be? I wouldn't go into the mall and try to figure out who is the heart surgeon because I've got a little bit of a pain. My left arm's not quite doing a thing. I'd like to just randomly start asking people advice on heart health and see if they happen to know the right answer. It's insane. Right? This is life and death stuff.
Yeah, good analogy right there. Okay, Mr. 18 Zulu, what else do we need at Shane? Are you going to kick us off?
You have another one?
Well, I was just going to say.
There's questions are popping up.
You know what? This has been an excellent show. We've had 86 comments and questions. I just wanted to thank a few people. Ben, Matt, Courtney, Dave, Sergio. There was also, here in just a second, if I can find the watcher. There was an individual who said, this is my very first podcast ever. Sean Nutt. Sean, thank you very much for watching the podcast. And hopefully, if this is the very first one you've ever seen, I hope it meets an expectation for you. And if you wanted to watch more of CVO's previous talks, you can check those out on YouTube. Just type in CVO Podcast. And they have awesome conversations about tons of other things. So,
he's so good at promoting us when we forget to promote ourselves.
Right?
He's Shane,
Speaking
Shane
of
the
promotion,
brain. Yes.
Rob, what do you got coming up in the next couple weeks?
Oh man, actually, the next couple weeks are so this is kind of a break. With the baby, she turns 3 next week, and I've tried to schedule more downtime. Unfortunately, and fortunately, I say unfortunately, but I kind of roll my eyes at myself. I have no discipline, so I just say yes and I work. And so while I did schedule this year to have more breaks in the tour, the USCCA project, the launching, we just had 50 students go through, 50 end user students go through the new Defensive Shooting Fundamentals Level 1 program that was taught with Jamie Onion, who runs our Defensive Firearms Coaches program, and Derek Poole, one of our senior C.F.S. instructors, ran that program along with 9 candidates for training counselor status. In other words, they want to do the instructor development for the new live fire program under the USCCA umbrella. So they worked with those teams. The team really taught most of the course. They just kind of supervised and jumped in as necessary because it was their first time out of the gate for some of them teaching it at this level. And, of course, before they can do instructor development, they have to teach the course a bunch and understand how to answer the questions. Like, what if you're teaching this? Like somebody said, what if you're teaching somebody with a physical disability or whatever? That doesn't come from the textbook, right? That comes from, a lot of that's experiential. And we do it with a safety net, team teaching with a senior instructor around to help. And for the application of the information, it's like we teach students, we want them to have applied shooting skills, not just performance on the range. Same thing, I can't have instructors out there who only have theoretical information and conceptual approaches to how to convey the information. They need to have the actual application of how to teach the information under their belt. So they're doing that, which is great. I was teaching another class, then we'd meet and debrief, so I was like Sunday there till midnight in Milwaukee, drove all night, taught a class in Minneapolis, drove down here, got here at 2, and I was running like 40-something hours straight because that's what we do. We just keep saying yes. So lots of cool stuff going on, lots of awesome stuff. But next week I'm actually down, so I'm going to be teaching in Johnson.
You're at Crossroads this weekend, but I think they're both sold out.
They are.
But
And then,
maybe you'll pop up there next year too.
I would love to. I know you've told me great things about the range.
Yep.
I've heard some other people in Iowa. I'm really looking forward to being there.
I've taught a few medical classes
You've been there.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Those classes are filled. Then next week is kind of a down week, and then I've got a class coming up in Colorado in Walcott. But unfortunately, the fires. I'm a reserve deputy in San Juan County out there, Silverton, and the fires coming up from Durango. It's been really rough summer in Colorado with fires, and now I understand that there's a new fire that's gotten very large, relatively new fire near the range we're supposed to be using in about 10 days, 2 weeks. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I may actually have like 10 days no classes over the 4th of July break. Traditionally, I use that 4th of July break as a little bit of a breather anyway. The baby's birthday is the 22nd, so I will be potentially down for a while, but that down with everything that's going on, 2 new programs we're working on for next year, more books. I'm actually as busy or busier this year than I've been in a long time. And I know you just put up the schedule for the tour. We've got 12 other instructors on the tour this year. You've taught some classes on the tour this year. We've got a lot going on, and personaldefensenetwork.com, I.C.E. training.us, obviously USCCA now, as we could launch out that live fire program that's related to these 2 new books. It's hard to say. People ask me all the time, what do you want to promote? I want to promote education. Like I said, I go to the internet and Google these topics with my name or with Personal Defense Network or with I.C.E. training and get the information, right? There's a team of instructors out there. We had 200 and something active instructors when we looked at who are we going to take from under the I.C.E. umbrella and sort of lateral them in, obviously, because they know the material. Guys like you who teach this stuff all the time, it's silly to not say, okay, let's teach it under the USCCA umbrella too, because they're a great organization. The reason I'm doing it with them is because their organizational skills and the things they can do to help us reach more people. So we want to bring everybody in. And I actually hadn't kept track in a while. And, I think we have 250 something people actively sharing our programs around the country. Somebody like what other school, right? When at its height, maybe Gunsight had that many adjunct instructors back when they were doing the adjunct. Everybody, if you graduated a certain number of classes, they invited you, came back, you were an adjunct instructor, and you went home and you taught the modern technique, and then you brought students with you to Mecca, so to speak. I don't know that they ever had 250. I don't know, other than like the big organizations, USCCA, NRA. There aren't private sector schools that have the kind of team that we have. There aren't private sector schools that have the depth and breadth, the medical side, the Alessandro with the knife side. We've created this amazing group of people, and I'm honored to work with them and have the opportunity to share their stuff with people. So, look at what's going on. It's not one guy driving around in a camo car throwing cans of Monster at people to make them do lateral movement, right? There's a lot going on here, and I'm sort of like the loud guy at the top, but we have a lot of depth. So what am I promoting? I'm promoting education and people seeking out good resources for that information, and you have to type the words, right? And you have to maybe drive an hour if you're in Dubuque to come to Cedar Rapids, because I'm not coming to your house. Probably
not, unless you got a kick-ass range in your backyard and you want to host him. I think you maybe work that
training
out.
at ICEtraining.us if you're interested in hosting, and being told, no, I'm busy. That's what the office will tell you. Then if you send me a PM, I'll be like, I'll fit it in at 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I've got an hour and a half.
The same guy I just read that said, I need to learn to say no more.
Yeah.
No.
Happen.
All right. Need to add anything?
No, we're good, man.
Shane, thanks for your awesome technical help that you always provide.
Yeah, no
I'm
problem.
really impressed. I mean, it was like the studio, and then literally on the way here, I texted him like, is this some guy's house?
Are we at a house? Because he beat me here.
Is this really
He was
in a
the
basement?
first person.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Normally, last time we went in a basement, it was weird. I always like saying that.
Yeah, that's good. Bring out the
It
gimp.
was Paul Carlson's basement, and it was weird.
Okay. All right. All right.
One more thing, just as a reminder for people, if you want to check out Rob and Personal Defense Network, go to personaldefensenetwork.com. You can check out his videos. He's got firearms training, self-defense training, home defense training. You can check out his articles, his blogs, his training. So if you want to go to
And
a
to be
training
fair,
date,
that's not just his.
Yeah, I was
right?
just gonna say
just
it's-
look at the list.
Yeah,
right?
there's
It's
a lot-
like, it's,
there's
a
lots
lot
of
of
people.
contributors.
it's ours.
Yeah.
yeah, it's community. So if there's a lot of great information there, if you want to be a part of that, and
You should play that video.
yourselves. Play what video?
Play that,
Which
that,
video?
that one, the tour overview.
Tour.
This one?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
wonder what I do.
Oh.
Am I going to be
There's
yanked
the
off
car.
YouTube? You got a bunch
No.
of
I don't
No.
think so.
advertising on this?
No. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I don't know what happens. I'm sure I'm going to talk about some of our sponsors. All right. Well, that's a teaser. Now stop.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So now you guys see how cool it was? You
Yeah,
guys
that
go
was
watch the
cool.
rest of it.
Do it.
I don't know what's
Awesome.
going to happen.
All right. Well,
I don't know
Shane-
what the rule again. I don't know. I don't really do rules. So
And also, for people, this is we're coming down towards the end of Facebook Live videos for CVO.
Yes,
so if
we
you wanna-
are.
if you want to, and you should continue to listen to their podcast, you can always listen to them on Stitcher if you have a Samsung device, smartphone, or you can go to the iTunes podcast app and you can download it. It's CVO Gun Talk, and it updates regularly.
Shane,
Did I just
thank
put
you
it-
very
did I-
much.
was I a wet blanket?
That
there?
was perfect.
I
No,
Where-
you were perfect.
I got a tear in my eye.
I really
Nailed it.
did.
Yeah.
nailed it.
And I mean, it's kind of like, to know all this is coming to an end, and Mike and I have to stumble through this in my store. I mean, it's going to be a professional
I'm gonna be
go-ro.
there I'm going to be there to
I
help
want you to be
first.
there to hold our hand a couple times.
For sure.
All right. Rob, thank you very much. I get to see you tonight at the trap shoot while we raise money for kids. Are you coming tonight? You
I got to strangle people tonight, man.
Yep, you got to strangle people. That's true. You
Seems
need
legit.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I guess, well, then we'll all go on with our day. Everybody, thanks for following us. Thanks for listening. Looks like a lot of you did listen in. I'm sure it'll get a lot of views. So Rob can make the earth better the more you share this with your friends. And as always, watch out for the red Chevy truck.
Peace out.
Peace out.